really what's going on is we have higher frequencies coming in to activate, our crystalline template, our crystalline structure. Mother Gaia is she's playing her role too in this ascension, because she's ascending with us, and that's playing out in all the disasters and our weather and things that are happening in the world. And there's a mass purging on all levels. So pulling in all these higher aspects of our spirit forms, our spirit selves, and that means we're connecting into more trauma and more things that have happened on another level. But the counter of that is also our ability to connect to other dimensions and other beings that are here to help us.
Find a cozy space. Take in a few deep and centered breaths. Open your heart and your mind and join us as we journey into a safe space where every challenge we're facing becomes an invitation to return to wholeness.
I'm so excited to have you back on the episode, Lonna. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for always having me. I love our conversations.
You're so welcome. How have you been the last few days and weeks?
The last few days are different than to the last few weeks, I'll be honest. It's been, intensity is really the only word, I think, to really talk about it. I've been really good on a whole. Things have been, I think we're in this portal time between, September 21st to December 21st. And there's this 3-month kind of high intensity. I think every time we talk, Sarah, it's about how intense it's been and the energies are crazy, but it really feels like we are in this like disillusion of old ways. I think that's what it is. So I've been pretty good. I think leading up into like the end of October into November, it's just shifted a little bit into a really dense kind of energy of just collectively what's happening, what's moving through. But I'm actually pretty good. Other than the last few days, I've had some weird kind of like third eye stuff going on, ascension symptom stuff, like just blazing weird, like migraines in my eyes, like feels like I was getting stabbed in my eye and my left eye all day yesterday. But then weirdly enough, I'm just looking through my vision, and like something is activating because everything feels more crisp. Like there is a clarity to, like, when I look at something or look at the leaves or look outside, I just am seeing almost like deeper layers of what I was seeing before, and like more vibrant colors. Like it's, you know what it feels almost like, how flies have those multiple like kind of prism like ways that they see things, like a kaleidoscope. It feels almost like my eyes are like adjusting to a new way of seeing. Wow. Are you finding anything like that?
Well, I love that I think what is really important to note here is that you've been holding space for those energies to come in. And I think it's really important for us as like a collective to go into our quiet space and like self-care space and be selfish of what we're watching and what's distracting us in order to receive those magical upgrades and energies, because they're there waiting to come in. Yeah.
Agreed. And I think based on where the energies are at now, like we don't have a choice.
Oh yeah. Well,
that's what it feels like to me. Like it's such a time of like recalibration is the word that keeps coming to me all the time. And like currently, and I'll be honest, all of November is going to feel this way, where, we're in like a very deep clearing, and like it's essentially it's like a dichotomy of timelines merging. It feels like there's this divide and divergence that's deepening, and there's such a potent kind of opportunity to heal like these super dense, like these dense energies that are in like our etheric template in our field, because we've just been seesawing like back and forth between like this like wounds and trauma, and then this like infinite potentiality. Like it's just kind of this back and forth. And currently there's this mass like purging and cleansing that's taking place, and I think we can all feel it. Like I don't think there's any person alive that isn't feeling that right now. And a part of that actually is like mass collective traumas that are purifying out, really. And it's the deepest aspects of our psyche and the wounds and the things that we don't even know that we're holding, like grief and deep survival, like loss, like oppression, like there's a deep devastation being felt. And, you know, that kind of comes into like our higher aspects integrating in, which we did talk about on the last podcast, but we're expanding more of our spirit selves. We're bringing more of our higher aspects down into the physical reality. And that's overwhelming. Like there's no way to kind of put it. It's overwhelming. And because of the expanding frequencies that are moving out, we are pulling in higher aspects of our monad, our oversoul, you know, even our avatar selves, which are up in like, you know, 10 to 12 density. We're pulling these aspects in, and pulling that in is overwhelming. There's no way, because we're expanding farther out, we're bringing more in, and there's no way to kind of not feel overwhelmed and fatigued by that, because it's such an evolution of personal consciousness, I think, that's taking place. And this deep dive into like core wounds and traumas, it's really like there's no way through it, and there's no way out of it unless we're moving like through it. And I think that's the energy of right now, you know, this collective mass aspect of grief and trauma. And, you know, we did talk a little bit about the Atlantis timeline that is super present right now. And there is a mass aspect of new memories, new wounds, times of old coming in, like past lives, present lives, parallel lives, and even future timelines that are kind of all merging together. And with that brings deep pain and deep hurts, because there are things that happened, you know, at this time, what would have been, I guess, October and the Atlantean cataclysm. Like, I don't think people are fully conscious and aware that we have been moving through the grief of that time right now. And there's a density and a heaviness that we're feeling, but we're also moving through, most people on Earth currently lived at the end times of Atlantis. And that's something that's coming online as we tap into these deeper parts of ourselves that we are feeling into, but maybe don't really know kind of what that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If anybody's listening and they're not really sure about the story of Atlantis, I recommend searching Edgar Cayce. And I think it was Plato who also mentioned it in his teachings, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He did.
Yeah. So really interesting for those who are wondering what the relation is between then and now, where it's kind of like we're going through the same patterns of the misuse of technology. Well, we can go down the same road if we don't be careful with AI and we trust more in our outside resources like technology than our inner technology, which is like our higher self and guidance.
Agreed. And, you know, it's funny. It's not really funny, but what's happening, what was happening in Atlantis is happening now, because the beings that were at play, you know, during the end times of Atlantis are still the puppeteers here in our current time. And they're actually bringing back online a lot of the same tactics that they used in that time now. The namely being AI, and that major aspect of us giving our power over, us seeking outside of ourselves, and us really kind of looking externally for the easy way out, I guess you can say, not really sitting with self, not really like sitting in our, what do we feel? What do we think? And there's this deep reliance that they're trying to integrate in, and people playing with, you know, things they don't really understand, and our lack of privacy, like, you know, even the rollout of these digital IDs coming, which will happen, unfortunately, and they will spread out kind of everywhere. But this is a large aspect of that, is like our privacy being taken, and our, you know, it's kind of it's a consciousness war, really. It's a frequency war that's happening right now. And there are beings at play that are kind of instituting the same things at the fall of Atlantis that happen now. And it happened pretty much around, you know, Halloween time, almost 13,000 years ago, I guess, at this point. But what was instituted then is being instituted here. And it's kind of the same process of that fall that's happening. And it's a choice point that we're in. There really is. It's a continuing choice point that we'll find ourselves in. But this time is mass aspects of survival coming up, and deep loss, deep grief, and those really heavy aspects of wounds and traumas from a previous timeline that are playing out, because there was so much loss at that time. There was so much of our family, of our galactic family, of beings that were lost at that time. And, you know, the war continues. And I don't like to create war timelines, but it's created and it's here. And it's something that we need to talk about, because really we're all in a space of that choice. Like, how are we going to activate ourselves to what timeline, you know? And these frequencies are expanding whether we're engaging with them or not. And it's really a choice of kind of how we choose to engage with ourselves and how we choose to engage with the rest of the world. And really what's going on is we have higher frequencies coming in to activate, you know, our crystalline template, our crystalline structure, from pure carbon base, which we were before, into like a mix of carbon and crystalline. And really when we ask, like, what's a crystal? You know, like a crystal is something that transmits, you know, it activates, it holds code, it illuminates, it receives frequencies. It also interacts kind of with the environment, and it amplifies or transmutes. So it's like, what are we receiving and what are we sending out? And that's something that we really need to kind of ask ourselves, because we're in an expansion aspect of our evolution, and expansion is soul evolvement. It's not a linear path. So it's really about coming back to self and encompassing, you know, the all that is, that point of neutrality, not getting caught up in this side or that side, and finding our way back to like that 0 point, that heart space. And where we're at right now is all about discomfort, you know, and we talk about this a lot, is finding the comfort within the discomfort as much as you can. But discomfort is an opportunity for expansion. That's really what it is. It's an opportunity to surrender into what we're being shown, and to be an allowance of the process of allowing that to fall away. Because time is quickening. We're in a time of quickening, and things like that's what happens when we move down in densities, things slow. And when we move up in densities, time quickens. And that's what we're feeling right now, is this quickening, is this faster pace. And it brings overwhelm, you know, and fatigue as we calibrate kind of these new frequencies and in this new way. So currently what we're in is this mass purging and this mass cleansing of like just this heavy debris. And really the base of that is we are rewiring our reptilian brain, which is really a lot of that aspect of, you know, fight or flight, survival, competition. It's base survival feeling. And we have that kind of pushed in our face at all points. We are really sitting in a way of like getting narratives thrown at us, stories, and like everything that's playing it on this world stage, this grand play with all their actors in their right place. And it's really a matter of like, how much are we going to give energy to this play? You know, how much are we going to buy into the act 1, act 2, act 3 of this Broadway play that's playing out in front of us? And we're all, you know, actors in the play. It's just how much are we engaged in it, you know? So it's a big aspect of that. And really letting go of that reptilian brain. The funny part of that is dragon energy is so present right now. It is like, I'm in my happy place, because now more and more people are connecting to dragons. So I don't seem like such a weirdo talking about it, you know. But it's prevalent. It's really prevalent. And they're here to assist us. It's all about this awakening process, you know, like we are really in a space of like receiving and loving and witnessing ourselves in every form, even what would be considered the shadow form, because we're in observance of what needs to be let go of for our mass expansion, essentially. And allowing what's meant to fall away, we have to feel it. We have to be in it. We have to allow it. But we also need to know when it's time to let it go, rather than running from it in fear and pushing it back down. Because when we push it back down, it's going to come back up stronger. It's going to rear its head again in harder, more difficult ways. So this is really an opportunity right now to really, really allow the discomfort and to allow the pain, to cry, to be in all those spaces, and to not shame ourselves, to come from love and honoring and allowance of that. Because when we can witness that, and we can be in observance of that, it gives it space for it to remove itself.
Mhm.
Because we are uprooting all kinds of memories and traumas and hurts from many, many different timelines that we don't understand. And so shaming ourselves and being like, oh, you know, having these highs and lows, which is a natural part of what's going on, to be honest. It's really, we can't even be conscious of all the things that we're processing and letting out. And we also have this intensity and this fear space driving us from our external and what's playing out in the politics. And, you know, Mother Gaia is she's playing her role too in this ascension, because she's ascending with us, and that's playing out in all the disasters and our weather and things that are happening in the world. And there's a mass purging on all levels. So we really need to find that balance point. And again, we're pulling in all these higher aspects of our spirit forms, our spirit selves, and that means we're connecting into more trauma and more things that have happened on another level. But the counter of that is also our ability to connect to other dimensions and other beings that are here to help us, our galactic family, our team, our own higher self, and allowing us to be in a vibrational alignment and a synergy to like what it is that we want to create in the world, what we want to see us become, essentially. And that requires us to be fully practicing what that looks like to create the timeline we want to step into, and what we choose to engage with, and how we engage in that. You know, it's a frequency war. It really is. And giving our energy away is something that's keeping us in a lower frequency. And that's why Dragon is here right now. Anyone tapped in right now is probably heard a little bit about Dragon energy going on. And Dragon is all about the transmutation, the alchemization. It's, you know, the changing, you know, things into gold. So when we look at that as an opportunity for us to sit in the hard aspects of what's going on around us, and come with compassion and come with love and come with understanding and just feel through it, then we transmute that, we alchemize that into gold, because then it's a power space. Then it's a strength that we can take forward and not just help us, but ripple that out to everyone around us that is also needing, you know, that illumination.
And I love that we all have a dragon guide. If you haven't connected to yours already, for those who are listening, we all have one, just like we have angel guides and guides. So if it resonates,
Absolutely.
connect, because it's really nice to feel that kind of protection and safety and guidance that we all have.
Yeah. And they're here and they're awakening and they're ready to go. So it's they're the masters of transmutation, like, and they will never judge you for, you know, having a tantrum or crying or raging. Like, there is a sacredness to feeling through these rage. You know, the sacred feminine rage is one of the most potent, like, primordial energies there is, and honoring yourself in that is what allows you to move through it. And they're going to bring some shit up, and I mean, it's coming up anyway, so you might as well utilize the energy and just surrender to the form you're in at each moment, because this next month is a roller coaster. Like November 5th, we have a super moon, which the moon is the closest to Earth at any point in 2025, and it's in Taurus. We're also in a grand water trine, which means that Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer are all within 120 degrees of each other, which means like we have amplified emotions, amplified ability to create, amplified connection to others. So it's potent and it's intense, and we're moving through it. And I feel really strongly that November is a choice point. Like, how we navigate November is going to be really telling with how we move into December. And I just keep seeing and feeling into this winter solstice around December 21st. Something is shifting then. And it feels almost like the divide will become so big where it's like your choice is made at that point. And, you know, you're down for the ride. And of course, this, you know, we got to flow with that. But I really feel between September and December 21st, there is some major aspects of like division happening where it'll be extremely difficult to go from one to the other after that point. That's just what I feel. Have you tapped into anything about that, Sarah? Like, what are you feeling?
Well, I feel that the frequency, we definitely have the choice to tap into both frequencies, and you can feel it. when we're feeling light and grateful and we're in our self-care space and all warm and fuzzy, and you feel like love is radiating, you're in that 5D space. But then, you can be dragged back down into the 3D dungeon and like you just feel like you're in the shits, and that's just the 3D.
That's literally it. You nailed it when you said that. It's true. It's like you're in, and that's the roller coaster that we're on when it's just up and down, and we're in it. Like, no one person at this point is just fully in 5D, because 5D is it's a consciousness. It's not some other dimension that we're going to. It's a consciousness within self. And not there's too much going on. There's too many fluctuating frequencies for anybody to be like, I'm in 5D. Like, you absolutely aren't. Like, there's no way that you are, because we're all in this fluctuation of what that looks like right now. And yes, it's getting harder and harder, but I like my eyes seeing in a different way. It's like, there's just things that I'm like, wow. Like, I did a ceremony on Halloween. I don't want to get too into it, but Halloween, Samhain, is a really dark time for satanic ritual and blood sacrifice, which it's heavy.
Yeah.
And I chose to do ceremony on that day to help the beings cross over to the other space and make their transition as easy as possible. And I've never really felt called to do that before, but it feels like everything is amplifying. It feels like the culmination of intensity is just like, it's literally laid out on a platter for us to see. Like, we are hearing more and more accounts of the elites and what's happening, with the underground systems, and everything's coming up. Everything's being purged on mass levels. And so we can't really look away from that. And if we choose to, that's, a choice, but it takes a lot of strength to look at that and to be like, I can't believe we live in a world where these things are happening, but we do. And I think it's about really looking at that, not sitting in it and going down the holes of it, but honoring that is a real truth for many people. And there's more and more accounts of that coming out. So I sat in ceremony for 2 hours and I was singing for namely the children, because a lot of beings who are sacrificed at that time are children. They're part of the ritualistic, satanic ritualistic aspects. And I tapped into, like, we are able to connect to frequencies we've never been able to connect to. Like, the things that were coming out of my voice, I sang for almost 2 hours. And it was different. I can be really honest about it. It was different. Like, my voice was doing things it's never done before. It was connecting in deeper aspects. I was pulling from higher places. And I felt almost like beings coming together to help me in this from multiple dimensional spaces, and helping with that transition and helping with that alchemization and transmuting that density and that darkness. And it was super powerful. It really was. And, I don't want to get too deep into this stuff, but it's there and it's present. And it's something that I felt really called to engage in this year. And on that level, it opened up all these new aspects of what I can do with my voice,
That's so kind and thoughtful for you to give up your time to help, souls transition. And that probably lifted a lot of the trauma as well, so they don't carry it on and on and on. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, you don't have to thank me, but thank you for saying that. Yeah, it's because I know it's happening. I'm not, I know, and I tapped into some really dark ritualistic aspect, and really it's going to happen. I can't control whether it happens or not. I think that's really what's the truth of it, but I can help in any way I can. And that's true. And that idea, that story is true of all of us. We can't go and fight a war across the world. We can't. And I wouldn't do that anyways. I don't condone violence, but it's like, we can help from our own intention, our own space, and our own heart center, because that shifts the frequency, and what we give energy to builds. And when we can give energy to, like, transmuting the density, we all have that ability to do that. And I think it's so powerful, because there's things we can't, sometimes we don't need to physically go there and do something. Sometimes it's just being that voice or holding the space for something that really can really make a difference right now.
Yes, I love that. I love that you say that we have a lot of power, and we, with the right intention coming from our heart center, we can send so much light and bring the darkness to the light, hopefully.
Exactly, because it's a spectrum. Darkness is light and light is dark. And it, like, in my understanding, darkness always finds its way back to the light at some point. And it could be billions of years from that point, but it will always find its way back because energy doesn't go away. It shifts and just transforms and moves into something else. And if I can have any play on pulling something into the light, or at least minimizing trauma and pain for any other beings on whatever dimensional space, whether that be on Earth or anywhere else, then how could I not do that? You know, knowing that and understanding that we are so powerful. And the more I give energy to that, the more I'm shown, the more I see, the more I can connect to that and realize, like, we are so powerful as humans, really, when we're intentional with how we spend our time and the choices that we make.
Yeah, I love that. Amazing. And so I know you said you didn't want to dive very much deeper into your ceremony, but it's very interesting to hear about. It really is. You know, this brings me back to Kyra. Remember where she actually went through a horrible, awful life in that industry. I don't know if it's called an industry, but that horrible sect, I would say. And she wrote a lovely book called, what's it called again?
Well, she has the Sophia Code, but I don't think
Code is the book.
Yeah, I don't think that one was talking about her trauma. That's talking to the deities that she connected to, the dragon tribe, essentially the dragon feminine that helped her through that. Yeah, that honestly, she was a huge aspect of me connecting into just how deep it goes, like her story. And I've actually done a lot of research on this, trying to understand all the, like, as a shadow worker, I kind of have to dive into the shadow to understand. And Kaya Ra is here as an extremely evolved being. She was meant to go through that so she could share her story and she could bring these teachings too. And almost every spiritually aligned female that I know, even a couple males, have read the Sophia Code and have kind of entrained themselves to those practices, because every one of them, and we know of all the deities, there's seven of them that are part of the dragon tribe, you know, either Mother Mary, there's Kuan Yin, there's Green Tara, there's Hathor, Isis, like, with their, you know, we have all heard of these beautiful beings who are just here to help us all embody these aspects of self. And for her to be able to connect to these teachings and then write this book and then speak on it the way that she does, she's allowed so many other, not even just the feminine, there's the masculine as well. Like, there are, like, even the other day I was connecting into, I don't want to go too deep, but I will go deep. And there is a woman that was talking about this, and, you know, she was like created from a petri dish, essentially, from the elites. And she had her like handler, and her mother was her handler. It was part of, like, her family was Freemasons, and they had to marry into this other bloodline that was connected to the royal family. And she got out, and they literally had all these implants in her, and they were controlling her, like, internally with nanotechnology and bringing up diseases and bringing up all this stuff. And I'm like, holy, it goes so, like, and I've heard about all this before, but she speaks so eloquently about it. And she was created, and they're like, we created you. All the reptilians were involved. There was people of, you know, celebrities that were involved, and royal family that were involved. And it just goes so deep. And the more and more that we kind of dive into this, the more and more we're discovering, and just how we need to know this, because the only way that the systems of our world will crumble is for people to have this knowledge, and for them to be like, wait a second, I'm going to question that. Because we can't even deny, like, look at our politics right now. Look at the wars going on in the world, like the genocides happening in Nigeria, you know, like, there are mass amounts of control. It goes deep, and we can go as deep as you want to go into this, but it all interplays, and it's all over the world, these huge systems of enslavement and hybridization labs that are under most major cities of the world. You know, there's so much going on, and, you know, organ, like, harvesting, there's doctors that are a part of that. You know, they take separating twins, they take one of the twins, and, like, they're, you know, the mothers, like, are lost in childbirth and their organs are harvested for certain genetics, certain DNA, certain bloodlines. Like, it goes deep, and this is all coming up. I mean, we're in Scorpio season right now, so like we're in the shadow. Scorpio season's never easy. So I mean, I guess this is a time when everyone kind of is a little bit more open to it as well, because everybody knows Scorpio season is shadow season. So I think people are like, okay, well, what's Scorpio bringing this time, you know? And they're a little bit more open to looking at it. And the veil is thin, you know, the veil is very thin. And I'm a Scorpio. My birthday's on Thursday. I'm like, I'm right in the thick of this. And I'm like, I feel all this stuff coming through. And I also believe our birthdays are a portal into like the next timeline. I always think that there's kind of a coming together of more of self at our birthday. And it's kind of like a reset and calibration. So I'm not surprised that this is all happening right now. I think it's going to be a super potent month, all of November. And we just got to hold on for the ride here, I think, and just not look away. That's what I keep hearing is don't look away, you know, like lean into that. And because if we push it down now, it feels like there's more backlash that will come later. Like, it's really coming up now for a time to be cleansed and purged. And again, the only way to the other side is through it. And I do see a lightening coming, you know, in the new year, but we are just in it. And the more we honor that shadow right now, and we learn to appreciate the opportunity that it brings, I think the better off we'll be as individuals and as a collective.
Yeah. And I love what you said before as well, just holding self-compassion for us and just space and allowing, because I imagine that there are a lot of people who have things wrong with their body and they're going to the doctor without any answers. And they're like, what the hell's going on with me? So it's nice to talk about these things, to let them know that they're not alone, but just to work through it, allow it to flow, ground, and do whatever it takes to hold compassion and safety.
That's right, because the doctors aren't going to have answers for this right now. Multiple clients of mine are like, what the hell is this? Like, what is going on? Like, their first instinct is fear, because our first instinct is to be like, oh, there's pain, something's wrong, something's going on. That it's giving us an opportunity to be like, hey, there was something there. Because right now there's so many odd ascension symptoms happening that there is no box that we can put it in. Like, the box was thrown out long ago. Like, there's nothing where we will understand kind of what's happening. So this is why we really need to connect to self and really connect with our spirit self and be like, what's this about? Is there something I need to know here? Or just allow it to move through without pushing it away. Don't, you know, cover the symptom up, honor the symptom, because the symptom is the alarm for what it is that we're going through. And this too shall pass.
Our body's a compass. Have you noticed a trend in what kind of symptoms there have been in the body specifically?
I have. I think everyone's different, but themes, digestion, like your gut, I find are really major. Gut and reproductive area for the feminine are a big. I felt it, and I've had clients feeling it too, and people I've spoken about are just like kind of recalibrations there. A lot of stuff happening with the throat area, the mouth, and the eyes. So I find the vision stuff with your third eye, seeing more clearly, that kind of stuff, even stuff with your crown, stuff with your hair. Like, there's just things that, like, pains that feel weird. And also integration stuff with like the head and the back of the skull, because that's where a lot of our spiritual information comes in. So we're getting kind of blasted with access to more right now because we're tapping into other dimensional spheres. Also, our guides, our galactic family, our team is like they're not shouting at us, but they're shouting at us to be like, it's okay, everything's all right, you know, like, you don't need to go to the doctor for that. And I'm not telling you not to go to the doctor, but I've had multiple clients where they're getting tests and like the doctors are prescribing ridiculous things because they don't know what to do. And that is not the right way to go, because they just don't know. So they feel as a doctor, and also how they were conditioned to, you know, be in that medical kind of, I don't want to go down that road, but they're the ones who are meant to have the answers, and they don't have the answers right now. So there's weird things being prescribed or antibiotics that literally mess your body up more than ever right now. If you need it, you need it. But there's also almost always a natural way to handle that. And it's not, and a lot of that is also, it's not a quick fix. So, you know, herbs and adjusting it, practices, breath work, you know, that kind of stuff. It's meant for us to tap in. It's meant for us to feel that discomfort, that pain, and to be like, what is this? And to sit with this and know that, you know, like, don't take an ibuprofen. If you have a headache, you know, sit with the headache. And I'm what is this? You know, there's something going on. And it's a learning process for everybody. And that's what I'm finding too. It's like, we're kind of stepping a little bit farther away from that instant fix, that need to cover up the pain, because the root is still there. You can cover it up all you want. But right now people are learning a little bit more to be like, okay, well, what's this here to teach me? Like, we're connecting with this, with the spiritual realms a lot more. And so I can see this kind of, it's a process of an unlearning and also a relearning of like what our soul already knows. And that's uncomfortable. But when we tap in more to our intuition, we start getting more answers.
Yeah, like there's so many things to learn through tapping into the discomfort in our body as well. To kind of asking the pain, like what you were saying, asking what is it? Where did it come from? What are you trying to tell me? And kind of journaling it down or singing it out. Or if we don't have words, just movement, like you said.
I was just going to say movement. I'm like, movement is everything, because our minds are so busy trying to analyze what the hell is going on right now. That a lot of it is just a matter of like, we are essentially unlearning the mind, the way of the mind. We are learning to tap into the heart and root that into the physical, which is movement. And when we can get out of our head and just move our body, it will transmute more than anything else at this moment. And that's something I really wanted to bring up. So I'm happy you kind of brought that back around, because movement right now, movement's always important, but movement is what it will alchemize the intensity. Just get up, move your body, dance, even just go for a jog, get out in nature. But like, dancing right now without any way of being and just moving your body in ways that being like, I don't know. And the visual I'm getting right now is Elaine from Seinfeld, you know, when she has that weird kind of like dance move that she does. She's just like, I don't care. I'm going to move how I want. And I think that's the message. It's just like, just get it out. Like if you're rolling around on the ground, you know, whatever you want to do, just let your body move you. Don't move your body.
I love that. I had the vision of rolling around in the grass there, and you just said it. And moving, like you said, there's no way to move. Allow your body to just get it out.
Yeah, because it doesn't, like, again, healing's not linear and it doesn't have to look good. Healing's messy. So like, if you're rolling around and things come out and you feel like you want to cry, let it out. If you want to scream, let it out, because getting that out of your body is the healthiest thing that you could do. And not worrying about what other people think, you know, obviously being like kind to people around, don't scream at people, but like sometimes you just need to let that warrior yell out and just be like, I don't even know what this is, but this is just tapping into your intuition and letting it come out. It's so healing right now. And movement is the way to do that, because we're trying to analyze, because that's what we do. There's a pain. What's the problem? What is this? It could be this. It could be this. Let's Google it. Let's look it up. Rather than just sitting with that feeling and being like, I'm just going to dance or I'm going to move my body. And I promise you, you will feel better after it and you will feel lighter, because there's a lot that we can't understand from the mind right now.
Yeah. What's coming to me is like a little belly dance, you know, because there seems to be lots of energy kind of trapped around our solar plexus chakra and nauseousness. So like whatever your body guides you to do, just let it flow.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, the sacral right now is like, we're learning to tap into the sacral, the creative center of ourselves, and to move that energy through creatively in any way. So, and also it's empowering, like you said, with the solar plexus, when we just move and it's like, I don't care if I look weird. I don't care if I look silly, you know, you just move your body, like you will feel so much better, because movement is key. And that's something that was like kind of highlighted for this month, I find, just to help the density move out. We don't have to always journal about it. We don't always have to, because there's so much coming up that we can't possibly understand it all. So There's things that we will be like, why am I thinking about that memory, or why am I thinking about this from childhood? And there's something there for you to look at. But sometimes you're just in a shit mood. Sometimes you're just like, I don't feel anger, and I don't know why, but I'm gonna honor it, and I'm gonna transmute it. So I'm gonna go dance, or I'm gonna go walk in nature, or whatever that looks like for you, you know, punch some pillows or scream into the abyss, whatever floats your boat in that moment, but just get it out. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah. Do you know what I find really refreshing? When, even if it's raining or if it's like really windy outside, obviously if it's yellow warning or red warning, don't do this. But if it's like the weather is kind of strong and fierce, get out, put on your raincoat and get in there to the wind and the rain and let it all blow through you. And like, imagine this, like the natural healing wind just blowing all the crap away.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. When I was in Mexico and there was crazy rains, I'd be like, oh, I'm going out. And I have always drawn to intense weather, though.
Yeah.
Like, people think it's weird. Like, I'll sit out in the rain, or like if it's like, not when it's lightning, but like I'll sit out on the porch when it's just pouring. And I'm like, when it's lightning, I'm like just sitting out there. I'm like, yes, like there's something energizing. It keeps you alive. It reminds you that you're human. You know, like we're in a human experience right now, and it's just, there's something invigorating about that. And the wind is so underrated of how much it can move through. How, like, you're so on point with that. The wind is never really talked about, but it's, get out in the rain, you know, get out in the wind, and it kind of reinvigorates you. It makes you feel alive again, and it gets you out of your head.
Totally. I love watching massive storms and thunder and lightning from inside, because I don't know what it is. I think I read a book when I was like 14 called Saved by the Light. Did you ever hear about that book? No.
I think so. Was it someone hit by lightning?
Yes. And they kind of moved into, they saw the light or whatever, and they crossed over. And that was my first ever kind of spiritual book when I was like 14. And ever since then, when there's lightning, I'm like, oh, don't go out there, I might get struck.
See, I would be like, take me if you need me. Like, I would be like, I wouldn't do something ridiculous, but for me, I'm just drawn to it. It's like, for me, I feel it's like I can take some of the energy of that and I can transmute it. Like, it's almost like I'm like it's coming into me in some ways. Like, I would go out in crazy storms. Even as a child, I would do that. My mom's like, what are you doing? Like, get inside. And I'd be like, I'm just sitting outside, or like sitting like, in Mexico, you can sit out in the rain and it's covered. So I would sit out there just in like rainy season. It was just nuts, like hurricanes. I'd be sitting out there, like not in the hurricane, but in a contained space where I could get the energy of the intensity. Yeah, that was a little bit weird, I guess.
Amazing. But I love it though. There's so much power. And it also helps you appreciate when it isn't raining. You know, it's kind of like the dark side of the weather, and then the sun comes and you appreciate how sunny it is. I remember when I lived in Ireland, we appreciate the sun so much because we don't have that much.
That's true. You're right. And, you know, you nailed that too, because that's the exact aspect of the dark and the light.
Yeah.
You know, like if we lived in sunshine and rainbows and joy space all the time, and we didn't have shadow moments or when there was difficulty, we wouldn't appreciate the latter. You know, like it's a part of the contrasting experience, and then to find that balance point. So we need that in the third dimensional reality we live in. That's a part of why we're here, is to experience the lows as well as the highs.
Yeah, the dark and the light. Because if we, like you said, if we didn't have those dark kind of horrible things that are happening, we wouldn't know what we wanted or not want to be in, or, you know, kind of be in love and light rather than that side.
Exactly. And this is what we chose and integrated into when we incarnated here. Like, we knew that would be the experience. So rather than being upset about it, it's like, what can I learn from it? It's an opportunity to grow and expand.
Yeah. Yes, totally. And do you have any guidance for anybody who'd like to make the most of the full moon on the 5th of November, for this month of November?
This was a super moon. This one's a Taurus one, and it's focusing a lot on relationships. And I find it's more about the relationship to self, but holding the boundary for self, like using your voice, I think is really like being in the physical reality. Like, this isn't like we're connecting into the stars kind of thing. This is like, okay, we're getting into a grounded reality. So And there is a focus on relationships this month. So I think it's about deepening the relationship with self. And a large aspect of that, what was coming up for me, is honoring your own personal boundaries, like allowing people to be where they're at, but also standing in your own power and expressing when that is not in alignment to you. That's something that was coming up pretty heavily for me when I, like, actually for the last little while, but specifically for November, because we're going into Mercury retrograde on the 9th to the 29th. So like a lot of this is prep for that. And that's going to be a part of the intensity this month. Is there going to be a lot of obstacles, a lot of things that are coming up to kind of test us and where we're at in our process. So really defining to self, you know, what you will and will not allow into your experience, and not being afraid of expressing that to the people that you love and the people in your relationships or at work or, you know, wherever that is allowing someone to have their experience, but also using your voice and knowing when there's a difference between like allowing something to happen in front of you and like being upset about it and not like, you know, not saying anything and then going home and ruminating about it, rather than being like, I honor their experience. I happen to be present for that, but I don't choose to align to that energy. I choose to create a boundary where I honor you, but that's not, I choose to not engage in that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're setting a boundary, you're protecting your energy. You're like there, but you're not there. You're not getting sucked into that low drama, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's going to be huge going forward on how we define our space to ourselves, to others, because in the world we lived in, the old paradigm, it was very much like, oh, well, they're going, you know, they're in some space, and you get caught up, you get pulled into the drama of that. And it's exhausting. It takes your energy. And rather than, and I think it takes a lot to come from non-judgment and to come from compassion. And someone could be having a bad moment, or someone, that's just where they are in their process. But I can also choose not to align to that, to not engage in that, because that's telling the universe, that's setting your space for yourself of what you're allowing in going forward and what you choose to engage in. I mean, things are going to happen around us we don't have control over, but how much energy we give to it, how much we allow that again into our space, we have control over.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Thank you so much for that guidance and your wonderful wisdom as always.
Thank you for having me and letting me speak freely. And I know this one was a bit dark, but also these are the times that we're in. And I love that we can talk about this, because I think it needs to be talked about. And I encourage anyone listening to do your own research and to really kind of dive into that. And a lot of the things that we talked about today were intense, and maybe some people didn't know about these things, but I assure you, these are truths that are happening in the world, and it's something that I think we all need to be aware of and to find our own truth and what that looks like. So thank you for letting me speak freely on that and diving into that, because it's coming up, and also it's kind of a preparatory for what's like it's going to be unfolding on the world stage going forward in the next while. So it's something that we should prepare ourselves to be seeing more of as well.
And like you said before, it's basically just guidance to the choice point to where we want to be at the end of the day, even though, you know, it could seem dark, but really it's awareness and knowledge in order to know what we want more.
Precisely. Yeah, beautifully put.
Yes. Thank you so much. I can't wait for our next episode. Enjoy
Thank
the
you.
next few weeks.
You too.